Welcome back to our conversation with Congressman Joe Donnelly. One more quick economic question. How much bailout or help money came into this district?
We had approximately $340 million has come into this district from the stimulus already, but not all of it has been spent. So approximately 65 to 70% of the stimulus still will be spent.
What is your definition of a win in Afghanistan?
My definition of a win in Afghanistan is a stable government where the people who live in the country are able to get services from the government, that in turn they are not attacking against their neighbors, that in addition to that, that there is not a safe haven in that country, where in that safe haven the Taliban or Al-Qaeda can plot against our country. The reason we went into Afghanistan in the first place is that Afghanistan was the country where Al-Qaeda put the 9/11 plot together, and did so with cover from the government, which was the Taliban. And so we went in to make sure that would never happen again. Number one, to catch bin Laden and kill him, and to make sure that Afghanistan would not be a safe haven. So a win in Afghanistan is a stable Afghanistan that is not a threat to the United States.
How long might that happen?
I believe that we're making significant progress right now. We have seen the surge start. Our Marines are in Helmand Province in the Marja area right now. After Helmand Province, we're going to be going into Kandahar, right next door. Those have been the two leading pockets of Taliban leadership, the spiritual birthplace and home of the Taliban, and so we are going after them right at the heart of where they are.
5 years, 10 years,
No,
20
no.
years?
I think that the timetable that President Obama laid out is a realistic timetable, where in the middle of 2011 we start drawing down our troops and we start coming home. So there may be a smaller presence, in effect, in the background in a few years, but it is an Afghan-led effort where we're trying to double the size of the Afghan army to 240,000. We want to have 160,000 police in the country as well, and have that country take charge of their own destiny. One of the key components in being able to achieve a stable Afghanistan is to have a stable Pakistan that is not encouraging the Taliban to cause trouble there, because they have significant influence with the Taliban. And today, as we sit here, we have had the best relations with Pakistan that we've had in years and years, and that we've just seen in the past month a number of Taliban leaders arrested in places like Karachi and in Quetta throughout Pakistan. That doesn't happen unless they want to make progress.
Question about rebuilding the Afghan army. If it takes the American army, which is a pretty good army, 6 or 8 years to make an NCO, and you're starting with a largely illiterate group in Afghanistan, how is it reasonable to expect that to happen in 2 years?
It is reasonable to expect you will have an army, a member of the army, who will be able to function effectively. I'm not hoping for them to become the quality of a Marine colonel or an Army sergeant. This is the Afghan army, and so if they function well enough for the Afghan army and create stability there, then we want to have our troops, our sons and daughters from Fulton County, Cass County, Marshall County, come home as quickly as possible.
Is it time to negotiate with the Taliban?
Well, I think you've already seen that those discussions begin by the Afghan government. In fact, about a month and a half ago, there was a group of interested parties that met in London, including President Karzai, General McChrystal, and the discussion was exactly on that subject. How do we bring the Taliban in where we can create stability, but at the same time keep the hardcore center of the Taliban out of becoming part of the government? In effect, many of the low-level Taliban throughout the country, they do it because they get paid a monthly salary, and it's the only way they can feed their family. And so what this discussion was about was, how do we get those members over to the Afghan side, paying them a salary from the Afghan army? That is one of the things that can help.
Iraq is in the process of another election. Does that suggest that we won in Iraq?
It suggests that we've achieved stability in Iraq and that we're in a position where our troops have started to come home, will continue to come home. Iraq is in the hands of the Iraqis now, which is exactly what should be happening. We are very, very much in the background, and there's a stability there that hasn't been in place for years.
Does that make it a win?
What it makes it for us is a place where there's stability, it's not a threat or a danger to our country, and the problems that exploded there have been tamped down.
How many U.S. troops in Iraq today?
We are still at about 100,000 plus, but we're looking to come down as quickly as possible.
What's the monthly cost of our operations in Iraq and Afghanistan?
It is over $10 billion a month. And that is part of the cost. That is part of what makes things so expensive in terms of the deficit and other problems. But here is what we were faced with. You had a situation in Iraq where once in effect the cork came off the bottle, there was no way to fix it other than to succeed there. And in Afghanistan, we were in a position where we were attacked by the Taliban and Al Qaeda. So we had to go to Afghanistan. Iraq, obviously, I certainly think it did not make sense to go to Iraq in the first place. But once we were there, once everything started, we couldn't walk away. And so the goal is, how do we get this to a situation where we can come home from both places? And that's what we're doing now. And it is my goal to look at Iraq and have no troops there in some years. And in Afghanistan, the same thing. We want our men and women here, not over there. But my first obligation as a member of Congress is the defense and security of our country and our citizens. And so our operations, that's what they cost, and it's very significant. We want to get that cost down, but we don't want to get it down at the expense of giving our soldiers absolutely everything they need.
Let's take another quick break, Congressman.
Okay.